Hello everyone, welcome to Keith and Kaye's vlog. My name is Keith and Kaye's is in the Philippines now. She will be here soon as we get our I-129F approved. Before I get started, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about myself and I will get into my journey to Philippines later in later videos I do for you. But I'm new to this video thing, not exactly the video thing, but to YouTube, and I'm just trying to get everything started. And by the way, I was in Philippines. This is my I was there for 3 times. If you want to see Kaye, you can look under our YouTube channel, Keith and Kaye, and you can see other videos I've done. You can get a good look at Kaye. She's very beautiful. But I want to just tell you a little bit about myself now. Okay. I am from America, and Kaye's from the Philippines. I was born in the state of Kansas, in a small town called Gardner, Kansas. I was born to my mother, name is Dorothy, and my father's name was James. They're both deceased now. The story goes is that my mother and my father met when he was in the military, stationed in Kansas, and they became friends. They met at what they call the USO dance. That's where the soldiers give dances on the boat or post. So that's how they met. And the story goes that I was told that they met and they courted each other for about maybe, I don't know, maybe a year or something like that. And they got married. She was about to have me, I guess maybe a couple of months before I was to be born. He had got out of the service, ETS out of the service. ETS means he got out of the service. And instead of coming home to her in Kansas where she was living, he took a military hop to his state, Louisiana, instead of coming home to her first. Now that kind of ticked her off, because she said she couldn't understand why he didn't come home to her. She was pregnant, getting to have me, but he better go to Louisiana. His story was he was going down there to try to get a place with him and all that and send for her. And she already told him she was not going down there to Louisiana. Her excuse was, she told me, was because there's a lot of voodooism and stuff like that. So she didn't want to go. And at the same time, her family was coming out here to California. So, that kind of ticked her off. So she just cut all ties from him. She said, I'm done with you. I don't want anything else to do with you. You're going to leave and go down to Louisiana and not going to come back to me, and I'm pregnant. I'm your wife. That didn't vibe with her. So at that time, her family all came out here to California. They wouldn't let her travel because she was too far pregnant. And as soon as she had me in Kansas, about maybe I'll say 2 months after I was born, she caught the next Greyhound bus out here, California, and didn't tell my father anything. When I was born, she didn't tell my father that what gender I was or anything. She just cut all ties from me and just left and came to California to live with her parents. So I grew up out here in California, Los Angeles, California, all my life. I really don't know anything about to Kansas. I've never been back there. All I know is I was born in a hospital in Gardner, Kansas. The story that I was the first African-American baby born there because she was getting ready to have me. And that was the closest hospital, so they took me in. And I was born. But anyway, I was raised out here. I was raised in a small place called Roger Young Village. It's a small village that was built for ex-military personnel that got out of the military. They find homes and accommodation from them. And then we moved to a place called Rose Hill Courts. That's some courts out of Rose Hill near East LA. And I was raised there till I got the age of about 6 to 11. I can't tell you every little single thing because it'll take too long to tell my story, just some of the things. At the time I was raised, I used to go to school. My mother at that time, when we moved, she had another boyfriend which had 3 more kids, my siblings. And while I was going to school, my siblings, the kids used to always say, those are not your brothers and sisters. You don't even look like them, you know. So I said, they are my brothers and sisters. What are you talking about? They're my sister's brothers. No, they're not. They don't look like you. Went home and I told my mother. I said, Mom, guess what these kids are saying at school? They said I only look like my brothers Leon and Arthur and my sister Joyce. And so my mother looked at me and she kind of sighed and said, she thought to herself, well, I guess it's time for me to tell her. Because before I didn't even know anything about fathers or anything. I just didn't have no male figure in the house. So I just thought that's the way it was. She said, you have a father whose name was James. He lives in Franklin, Louisiana. And I separated from him when we were young. We were still married, but I just left. And so she broke it all down to me, so I just, okay. So, you know, that was it. I didn't know him. I didn't love him. I didn't miss him. So anyway, as time went on, we had a lot of special events. I was part of what they call Woodcraft Ranges. We go on camping trips and camping out on the mountain, stuff like that. And in order for me to go, you had to have your father or some kind of legal guardian. So I had to go with other kids' dad, and to be eligible to go on these trips. And my mother had a friend that would offer to take me, but he had sons that were, kids could be cruel, man. He had sons that would tell me, "Where's your father at? This ain't your father. This is my dad." So on and so on and so on, you know. But that kind of got to me, you know. After a while, I began to wonder, where is my dad? I want to see him. Where is he at? And anyway, time went on. I got drafted into the military. And when I went to the military, my aunt, who worked at the sheriff's station, the head secretary of the sheriff's station, God bless her, she's deceased now, God bless her heart. So, and she had contacted the authorities down in Franklin, Louisiana, and it just so happened that the dispatcher that answered the phone knew my dad and went to school with him. He was a police officer, and he knew my dad. So when my auntie told him, hey, his son is trying to contact him, he said, oh, you mean he actually has a son? She told my auntie that he would always through the years say he got a kid somewhere but didn't know what gender it was. And he said that so much that they thought he was just talking out of his head. Oh yeah, sure, right, you got a kid somewhere. And now here you are showing up 19 years later. So she gave him my address where I was stationed in Fort Hood, Texas, and said he'll give that information to him and for him to contact me, which he did. He contacted me in about I'll say maybe a week later. He mailed me and sent pictures and stuff. So I wrote him back, and I told him that I'd like to meet him. And he said, cool, sure, come on down. He gave me his address and everything. So I got a 3-day pass and got on the Greyhound bus and took a trip down there. When we got to Franklin, Louisiana, everybody got off the bus, and I was the last one because I was in the rear. When I got to the door of the bus to get off, I seen all these people standing out there, and I could hear them whispering, "Oh, he sure looks like him. Wow, that is sure him. Look at him." So I'm looking at everybody, so I get off the bus and climb down. They're all just staring at me, grinning. And then I walked a few feet off the bus, and I seen this tall figure standing in front of me. And I looked, and it looked like I was looking at the image of myself. So I said, this must be my dad, you know. So I didn't know what to say. I never called a man dad in my life. We never had a father figure in the house at all. So I walked up to him and looked at him. And he looked at me. We stared at each other for a while. And the first thing came out of my mouth, something I have never said to a man before, was, "Hi, Dad." Oh my God, we both bust out. He bust out crying, and I bust out crying, and everybody looked around. Everybody was crying, and wow. So I went to his house, met all the siblings, the kids, all my brothers and sisters on his side, the family, met them, and he also took me to different, they call it juke joints back in Louisiana. And he took me over there and introduced me to everybody. He introduced you to his friends. He said, "This is my son. His name is Keith." And they looked at him and looked at me. "That's your son, man. You guys look just alike. You mean you actually had a son?" This is what they're saying. And they looked at me and told me, "You know, your dad always said he had a child somewhere, but didn't know what gender it was, you know. We thought he was just getting drunk and just talking smack, you know. Because this went on for years. And 19 years later, you show up. Wow, man." And I said, "Yeah, well, that's what happened." So I'm going to continue this video later. Please subscribe below. And thank you for watching Keith and Kaye vlog. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe.